Hello, Facebook Live for this week. My apologies for not being here last week, but if you saw my post mid last week, we welcomed a new little granddaughter into our family a little bit earlier than expected. So it kind of threw our week into, well, our plans changed for the week. So, and with that post, thank you so much, everyone who left really lovely comments. Appreciate all of those. So I want to share with you a card using the terrific Toadstools bundle, which is in the mini catalogue, page 53. So this bundle does include the stamp set, which is a photopolymer set, which makes it really quite easy for when you're lining everything up. And of course, with photopolymer, you will get a little bit of staining depending on the colour that you're using. Don't worry about that at all. It doesn't affect the way the stamp stamps. And it also has with it a punch as well. So this is the bundle, stamp set and the punch. So let me show you what I created with this. And it's also using some of the Toadstool Gardens Designer Series paper, which is from Celebration, which of course Celebration is finished now. So this is what I'm going to share with you. I've also, the circle die is from Stylish Shapes. And as you know, that is one that I use probably the most out of all of the dies are the Stylish Shapes. I do love that little stitch detail. And this tag here is from the annual catalogue, and it's from the Enduring Beauty bundle. So those dies there, and it has just that one. Let me show you in a little bit more detail the one frame that I've used. So this is where the frame has come from. So it's Enduring Beauty dies. It only has that one frame, but it just fit perfectly for what I needed for this card. Okay, so let's get started on this one. I am using a few different colours which I've taken from the Designer Series paper. Hi Mandy, thank you for joining me. But the colours I'm using, I've got Pool Party, Fresh Freesia, Melon Mumbo, Granny Apple Green, which is very much my go-to green at the moment, and finally Crumb Cake. So there are the 5 ink pads for this, which is probably a little bit more colour-wise than what I'd normally use. Normally I try to limit it just 2 or 3 colours, but this has actually got the 5. Hi Donna, thank you for joining me. So let's get started with this one, because there are a few elements that we need to get through. Let me first of all show you the products that are being used for this card. What else have I got in there? Maybe something from another kit. I'm going to say we don't need that piece. Every now and then you do come across extra pieces in my kits. They end up in the bags and they kind of get left behind. So my card base is Melon Mumbo, which is a half sheet of A4. I also have 2 pieces of white that measure 10 centimetres by 14.4, one for the inside, one for the outside. I've got my piece of Granny Apple Green, and this one measures 8 by 12.5, and I've got 7.5 by 12 for my piece of Designer Series paper. I've got my die cut circle, die cut tag. I've got my little gems, and I can't remember what set they came from, but they're nice and they match perfectly with the Melon Mumbo. And I've also got an extra piece of white cardstock to do my stamping of the Toadstools. There will be a little bit of fussy cutting in this card, but it's pretty easy. So we might start with doing some of the stamping and cutting. And we are using quite a few stamps as well. So let's get going with those. And I haven't even got as far as sticking these inside the case like I normally would. Okay, let me grab some blocks. So my first piece is the bit of grass. Now, as I mentioned, a little bit of fussy cutting with this one, but it's all easy going. And I'm also going to put underneath me, which I haven't used for a little while, but look, last night when I was stamping using photopolymer, I was struggling to get a really nice image. So the stamping mat or the piercing mat underneath you will help give you really a nicer stamp. So that's the only piece in the Granny Apple Green. Set that aside. Now with the punch, you need to take a look a little bit before you stamp which way to put your stamp on the cardstock. I apologise. It's only Tuesday and I am struggling a little bit with words. So sitting the punch beside you on your table, and then I can orientate my stamp to punch. I'm going to say that's going to work. Let's give it a try. So this is Melon Mumbo. So give that a good ink. I'll just test it. Yeah, that's good. And this is the colour that has really stained my stamp in nice bright pink. Okay, so I'm going to put that one aside and we'll punch out the top part of the larger toadstool. So then when you line it up, it lines up kind of perfectly. Now, the first time I made this, I ended up having to trim the cardstock and trying to hold on to it as I was punching it out because I just didn't think ahead of time to actually sit the punch beside me and turn the stamp the right way. We live and learn. So that's a tip for tonight. Okay, so next, got Fresh Freesia and the second Toadstool. And this one does have the punch as well, so I'm going to go this way and make sure it's lining up as well. Now, the other thing you could do is have strips that are cut a little bit thinner than what I've got here, but we're going to go with what I've got in the kit. Okay, let me try and work this to get a little bit better stamped image because we might not get it. Some of my ink pads are a little on the dry side. And this is one, but I found that I've over inked this one in the past a little bit, so we're going to go with this. It's not perfect, but that's okay. And then we are going to get second Toadstool punched out of the top there, but that'll be okay. So there we have the second top of the Toadstool. And what else do I need to do? I've got, I'll get that one out the way. With the crumb cake, I've got 2 stems of the Toadstool to do. Hi Jenny, thank you for joining us. So I'm going to put one there for the larger one, and also I've got the smaller one as well. And the smaller one does line up with the punch. So again, I'm just going to sit my punch there and I'm going to stamp going along the other way. So yeah, having your punch sitting next to you when you're doing this sort of thing is really helpful. So, okay, and then again, lining that one up, punching it out, and you will end up with extra tops for your toadstools. Pop those into a Ziploc bag and in with the stamp set. You'll be able to use those for something else. And being photopolymer, you may even be able to line up the stamp over the top because the stamp is a touch bigger than the punch out. Let me give that a try and see if that works. It should work. Okay, so there we go, stamp. So this is the punch out that from just before. Oh, I'm getting ink everywhere. and lining that up around about there. There we go. So you can actually easily stamp over the top of those. You might not get quite as much ink on you as what I just did. Okay, let me try and clean just a little bit of this ink off me before I transfer it onto everything else, because I'm skillful like that. Okay. So, I don't need that one. I'll pop that one aside. Finished with the stamp. Don't need those. Okay, I am going to stamp my sentiment while I've got this going, and then that will be the last of the stamps. And again, I am using Melon Mumbo and the Poppin' Up to Say Hi, which is a really nice sentiment to use. And grab another block. Now, the other thing, if you're using this particular die cut tag with a red rubber stamp, the other thing you can do rather than just stamping directly onto the pre-cut tag is stamp first and then cut out. But with the photopolymer, it's actually quite easy to line it up. And hopefully I'll stamp it straight. That would be a bonus. That's actually not too bad. So that is all of the stamping done. However, it's not all of the inking done yet, so we have a little bit more to do. Let me just pop my pieces aside so I don't lose them, and a little bit of fussy cutting to do. Okay, I think we're finished with that. Okay, so a little bit of fussy cutting, which these are really quite simple elements to cut out. So it is Tuesday, and I am going to ask the question that I usually ask. What crafting did you get done over the weekend? Hopefully you had a little bit of time to do something. Okay, and I have the second stem for the toadstool. So on the weekend, I played a bit of catch up because, as I mentioned, our plans for last week changed just a little bit when Bubs came a few days early. I just did catch up, so I did a fair bit of class prep, which was really nice, and I got some kits cut and things like that. And I also started on my swaps for On Stage, which is next weekend. Next week. You would have thought I would have started ahead of time, but no, I didn't. Okay, so fussy cut pieces, and again, I'm popping those aside. Next, I'm going to be using Pool Party ink. I've got my die cut circle, which is from Stylish Shapes, and I've also got a blending brush. So all I'm doing is adding some detail around the edge of the circle. Okay, so Jenny has crocheted a baby jacket. I can knit, but I just can't seem to get my head around doing crochet. I just can't manage it for some unknown reason. Okay, now with the blending brushes, I've actually gone a little bit heavier with the colour on this than what I did on the first one, and that's okay. I always use the blending brushes in a circular motion, and I start off my cardstock and work my way onto the cardstock. Okay, so Amanda, you've done the second card from the January card class. Awesome. I hope you enjoyed those projects. They're all fun to do. When you're using the blending brush onto your piece of cardstock, add extra colour just to get a little bit more intensity. If you like it a bit lighter, a little bit more light-handed. No, Simone, I knew that you were busy all weekend at a dance competition, and there's always next weekend. It's a long weekend next weekend, which is the other really nice thing. Has anyone got plans for the long weekend? Because I think it's one of the last weekends we get long weekends before, I think, King's birthday. Okay, so let's go with the next bit when you start putting this together. It was a little while ago that I actually made this card, so my brain is a little bit stretched remembering how it's gone together, but that is okay. All right, so I don't need those ones just yet. Need that. Okay. So my first piece I'm going to be sticking on is going to be a little bit of layering. So I'm going to be sticking the top part of my pink toadstool on first. Let me move this up just a touch to make sure you can see it easily. Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed those cards, Mandy. Okay, I'm going to use a little bit of Tombow, I think. So I'm putting just a smear along the bottom, not too much at all. And that's going to just go around about there. So that will go. Sorry, I chat to myself like most of us do when I'm crafting. There we go. First piece. I'm going to go in now with the next stem. Which is going to go, I think, around about there. Some of the positioning you'll find when you create or make a second card, you might find that it just ends up ever so slightly different. I'm going to go there. Again, I'm chatting to myself, which is a bad habit, but I find I do that a lot when I'm crafting. Okay, I've got some dimensionals. I am using, as always, the minis. And because my piece of grass is going to be off the circle, I'm going to be putting my dimensionals more towards the middle. So I'm only going to be using about 3 pieces. That way then there's nothing to stick just here. Okay, so flicking those little covers off. And that's going to go around about there. And this is where grid paper does come in a little bit more handy, because you can use the grid lines or grid paper to line everything up really nicely. Okay, so I have got my Fresh Freesia toadstool. And this is going on with dimensionals as well. And that is going to sit around about there. And for the stem, this is just obviously little tiny stem. I'm going to put a small amount of Tombow at each end. Just like that. And then that will stick over the piece of grass and over the bottom of the toadstool. Okay, we're doing well. Like I said, it was, I think I actually made this card for my catalogue launch back in January. So it's been a little while, but it has been sitting there. It's one that I've wanted to share with you, so it's nice to be able to do that. Okay, so let's start putting this card together. Pop that aside and give that a moment to dry. Stampin' Seal. And of course, with your Stampin' Seal, remember you only need a light hand and a little bit of a tick just to break the stream of adhesive. Okay, so let's stick this on, and again I'm aiming for straight, but stuck on will do for now. Okay, there we go, that is that bit, and I'm going to pop some dimensionals behind this. Ready to go on to the next layer. Okay, pop that aside. Going to put my little gems there just so that I don't forget to put them on or lose them. Okay, bone folder. So this is Melon Mumbo, which I think I mentioned earlier, and it is a pink that's been around for a really long time. I started using these products coming up 22 years ago when I lived in the US. So yeah, Real Red, Old Olive, Melon Mumbo, a couple of others, Crumb Cake are still here. So they've been here for a really long time. I think Garden Green's been here for most of that time as well. So it is really nice to have colours that have, I guess, stood the test of time. Okay, so my first piece of white, and as mentioned earlier, the measurement for this piece is 10 centimetres by 14.4. So this is going on with some Stampin' Seal. And then stabbing into the back of the dimensionals to flick those little papers off. So we've been very fortunate with Stampin' Up. We have had some beautiful colours that have been around for many, many years. Yeah. My favourites haven't disappeared, which is really nice because every now and then that favourite colour you might have does go when they do the colour refreshes. But I don't think there's another colour refresh for a couple of years. Okay, dimensionals with that element on the front. And then I have got... I need to make sure my grass is straight. I'm going to be sticking this element down, and I am going to use just a little bit of Tombow, more in the middle, just so that I can move it into place once it's sitting on my card front. Again, I'm making sure that my grass is straight. The toadstools being on a little bit of an angle, it doesn't matter too much. Okay, there we go. So I've also got my sentiment to put on, which is going just up the top there. And I'm not going to be putting any adhesive on this section of the tag because I don't want that to stick down. I want it to sit up. You could use, if you wanted to, another layer of dimensionals, but I think sometimes the cards get a little bit too thick, and then you can sometimes have issues with them being too thick to pass as a normal sized letter. So rather than paying $1.50 for postage, you'd be paying $3. Okay, so I've got my second piece of white to go into the inside, and of course if you wanted to, you could do some stamping. Little toadstools in the corner would look really cute. Or a little strip of the offcuts of the designer series paper as well, just adds a little bit more to look at. Okay, finally, almost done. These gems, and I can't remember what they're called. Okay, so I am using the putty end, and these are nice, big and bold, so they will just slide off and then onto my card front. This is the larger size in these gems. There's two sizes, this size and a smaller size as well, but I like the boldness of these ones. There we go. And that is our card finish for tonight. So this is using terrific toadstools. As mentioned, this card I made for the catalogue launch event back in January. So that was mid-January. So I've had this one sitting here for a little while to share with you. So this designer series paper was a celebration one called Toadstool Gardens. It's not available anymore, but you could replace that with another nice bright coloured designer series paper and it would still look fabulous. So that is what I've got for you tonight. I have one reminder, actually got a couple of reminders. First one is registration for the monthly card class. This is the card class that you do at home. So you receive the kits in the mail or you collect them from a class, and you'll receive with the kits an email that has a written tutorial, and it also has a link for a YouTube tutorial as well. So for a 3-month subscription, it's $20 a month plus $3 postage per month. So that for the 3-month subscription would be $69, or you can give it a try just for a month or go month to month, which would cost $22 plus postage. So you do save 10% if you subscribe for 3 months at a time. Registration for this class does close on the 20th of the month, and the designer series paper that's going to be focused is the Wildflower Birthday designer series paper, which is a specialty paper. So I'm looking forward to sharing those cards with you. take a look on my Facebook page. You'll find the links for all the information and to register for that. And finally, I won't be here next week for Facebook Live because I am going to be in Brisbane for On Stage. So fingers crossed that everyone in Brisbane and Queensland fare well over the coming days with the cyclone. So I'm watching that. A little bit nervous for everybody up there. So I'm hoping everyone will be safe. But I'll be back the following week, possibly. See what time I get home from Brisbane on the 18th. So that's not a Tuesday week. So I'll see how I go. But I might come back for that. But definitely on the 20th, I've got the free card class. So hopefully you'll join me for that one as well. So there we go. That's all I've got for tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. I really hope you enjoyed seeing this card being made. If you have any questions about it at all, please just leave me a comment and I will respond to it later on. Have a good night, everyone, and I will see you next time.